Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of Creating in Fortnite. Friday stream. We don't do that very often, but this was a pretty big announcement, pretty big release, and we were really excited to show you it. So, with that, I am your host, Dan Hutnick, and today I am joined by the one, the only Magnus, who has agreed, even while traveling, to come and join us for this live stream here. So, Magnus, sure folks know who you are, but just in case they don't, give them a very brief introduction for yourself, and then we'll jump into the cool topic at hand.
Of course, thank you. So I'm Magnus. I work with a technical developer relations team at Epic, and I pretty much specialize in everything about Verse. So today I'm going to show how you can use the new MCP feature in UEFN to pretty much accelerate your Verse development. But also, if you are completely new to Verse, I'm going to show how you can use this as a tool to learn how the language works and yeah, get into Verse development. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, real quick before we jump in, if you have any questions for Magnus specifically about MCP in UEFN, please leave them in the chat in brackets, question followed by your question. Maybe we'll gather as many of those as we can and throw them to Magnus towards the end of the show. Just want to stress real quick that Magnus is traveling. He's going to run all of this off of a single laptop in a hotel room. So if we have any performance issues, please forgive us. So far in testing, everything's been pretty good, but anything could happen live. So with that, any other things we want to talk about, like as what MCP means, what this means for UEFN, any sort of high level stuff before we jump into the actual demo side of this?
Yeah, of course. So the new MCP is essentially a way for you to connect the editor to an AI agent. So in our case, we're going to be using Claude Code, and through the MCP, Claude will be able to both interact with the editor in various ways, but also it will be able to spin up sessions for us and push changes into those sessions, read the output logs in those sessions, and get an understanding of how the game is actually running. So that essentially allows you to use these agentic tools to build in UEFN in various ways. And we're going to showcase that through a couple of demos that we're going to build here live. Before we begin, I'm going to show you how you enable it and how you connect it, which is fairly simple. What you need to do is go into your project settings, which you find here. And if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to find under beta access, UEFN MCP toolsets. And when you enable that, it should be enabled. You can double check in your editor preferences. You go down to or search for the, let's see, should be somewhere or here, model context protocol. And if auto start servers on, the MCP server will start every time you open your project. So then you can choose any AI of your choice that has the ability to use MCP servers. We're going to be using Claude Code. And to connect to this new MCP, you should simply be able to just ask your AI, are you able to see the MCP server at localhost 8000? And since our MCP server is running, it's going to find it and ask to connect to it. We're already connected to this MCP server, so we can start working right away with Claude here. I'm going to give you an overview of what the MCP server can actually do. And the way I'm going to do that is ask Claude, hi, you are connected to the UEFN MCP server in my project. Can you give me an overview of its capabilities? And send that. And then we just gotta let's enter the session here first. Okay, there we go. We just gotta let the agent work a little bit. Oh yeah, and I'll mention quickly, I have 2 skills installed alongside the MCP. A skill in Claude is essentially just some like a knowledge database that Claude can look up information in. And I'll make sure to publish these 2 skills somewhere online, probably on GitHub. And I'll share both those skills after the stream, so you can also use those skills with your Claude. So here you can see Claude. Working. We can also check if our MCP is running in Claude by writing /MCP. And there should be a menu popping up. I think my window is a little bit broken. Let's see. Okay, it is not. Let's figure out why. MCP toolsets is on. So yeah, that's weird. Should be enabled. Let me try and restart this Claude window.
We did have a bit of a tech thing we were tackling before we jumped in here, so we may have accidentally upset it before the show. So
Yeah.
we'll troubleshoot this to see if we can figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's see. One server. Yeah, that's very strange. Okay, what I'll do is try and restart my editor. So yeah, let's
You want me
do
to hide
that.
your screen for a second?
Yeah.
Perfect. In the meantime, while this is up reinitializing everything, do you want to take a question or two?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. We have a handful of questions. One of them here is just simply, what is Claude Code?
Okay, so Claude Code is one of the AI agents that you can use with the MCP, but you can also use Codex or Cursor. So you're free to use any AI that you want, but Claude Code is simply just one of these alternatives that you can use to connect to the MCP.
Yeah, I see that we were using Claude for this one. Another question we actually had here was, which AI models have given you the best results so far?
So far, I've only tried with Claude. Just by experience, I've generally experienced that Claude has a better understanding of verse, so that's why I'm using that now. I think it's a good idea to experiment if you have access to different AI agents, I would definitely experience with different ones to figure out which ones give the best results.
Yep.
Now let's hope the MCP server spins up here.
Yeah, no worries. One more question for you, which is probably going to be impossible to answer, but the question is, what can't we do with MCP?
Yeah, so that was just what we were gonna take a look at. But just to mention a few capabilities it has the ability to author assets in your project, so it can create materials, it can create Niagara particle systems. It can also interact with scene graph, so it can create entities and give those entities components. But a very cool feature with the MCP in UEFN is that it can start a session for you, and it can update that session for you, and it can read from the output log after that session has been running for a while. And using the output log, it can get an understanding of what's happening in the game, and through that, it can iterate on your verse code or iterate on the game and send those changes up to the session you have running. And that kind of creates an iteration loop the AI agent can work with. And sometimes you can leave your agent completely working autonomously on the project, but usually it's a good idea to see what's going on and give the AI input here and there for what you want it to work on.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up too, because actually another question we had here was, can it create Niagara particle systems or 3D models? And it's at least Niagara, right?
Yes, it can create Niagara systems. It does not do like mesh generation, but it definitely can do Niagara particle systems. That was one thing I had a lot of fun with when I tried the MCP for the first time. I had it build various Niagara particle systems and some very complex materials too that it used for those systems. All right, so I will go in here and open my code here.
Am I good to bring your stream back?
Yes,
Let's do it.
now we can see if this is running. There we go. Okay. So now we
Hey,
have the UE editor MCP connected. That's perfect.
another
All right.
classic case
So
of turn it off and turn it back on again.
yes. So let's do what we did. Hi. You are connected to the UEFN MCP, my project. Can you tell me about some of your capabilities? Now it should be able to use. Yes, here we go. Now it's immediately calling the UE editor MCP and figuring out what it can do so it can tell me and answer my question here. All right, so here we get a little overview. For UEFN, it can read, write, and manage verse files. It can compile verse files, and it can debug those compile errors. And as I mentioned, I have two skills alongside this MCP for this live stream, and one of these skills is a dedicated verse language skill. It can control live edit sessions, so it can create new sessions, push to those sessions, and read from those sessions. It has the ability to work with creative devices and with scene graph, as I mentioned. It can create new entities and components and build a hierarchy of them. And as you see, there's a bunch more it can do. with UI, it can set up data binding for you. It can create verse fields, and it can even do widget animations. So let's try and get our agent to build something. Let's make a tiny little gun game mini game, and the very first thing we need is somewhere to play our mini game or our gun game, and we have a completely blank level. So let's ask it to build a level for us. So I'll change the effort of this for this task to medium, and I'll say let's build a small gun game mini game with verse. I want you to build a little level, play this gun game, and make sure to place down some guard NPC spawners. So I have some test enemies to fight with. Then write system verse code to drive this gun game, allowing player to progress through weapons as they get eliminations. All right, let's send this and see what happens. So here it loads my custom skill, which has some information on how to use the MCP. But we should start to see things showing up in the viewport or in the level as it's placing things down.
Now, I saw that when you gave it that kind of prompt, it was more general, like, hey, I wanted to do this, I wanted to have this sort of thing. You weren't really like specifying specific
So
number values or anything like that. Is that how you like kind of start that way and then refine as you go, or?
there's you can definitely do that in different approaches. Now I gave it a very generic idea of what to build, and then we can rather refine on it later. But you can also be very specific about what you want. And I'll show a little example of that later. I have prepared a sort of a plan for it to follow when we're going to build a more complicated verse system later. So yeah, for some cases, for prototyping like this, you might just do a generic short prompt and then see what it makes, and then if there's something you don't like about what it built, then iterate on those parts with more specific prompts.
Yeah. I actually see here towards the bottom of this text log that we're at 5.2K tokens on this one. Another question we had here is how many tokens does it cost to do anything? Obviously, it's going
That's
to vary depending on what you're asking for, but just a general guideline.
Yeah. So it absolutely varies with first of all how much you're asking it, but also what model and what sort of effort level you give your AI model. Currently, I am using the medium effort level, as you can see here. And if you are working on like the low or medium effort level, you're probably not going to be using that many tokens. I recommend trying first to build using these lower effort levels. And if you feel like it's not able to get the results you want, you can try and bump it up. But generally, it's a good idea for just quick iteration to be on the lower lower effort levels to save some token usage.
Yep.
I think I interrupted it in its work here, so I'm just going to say keep going. Oh, there we go.
And then obviously, depending on what you're asking it to do, which AI you're using, what effort level you're giving it, and things like that, that will vary how long it takes for it to do what you're asking it to do. Right now, you've asked it to do quite a lot, so I imagine this will take a little bit. But if it was something as simple as like making a single edit or something small, it'd probably be much faster.
Yeah. All right, so we can see it usually does this thing where it probes placing down a thing to see if everything's fine. So I'm guessing that's what this cube is, and we're gonna start seeing some more block out over time here.
While it's doing its thing, I can throw a few more questions at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the questions we have here is my LOD/HLODs are a mess. Could I get Claude Code or another AI agent to go through and fix them?
Oh,
Pretty specific use case here, but interesting
yeah,
thought.
I mean, it's a quick way to find out simply by asking. So I'm gonna go in here and create a new session where I ask, can you repeat the question so I can
They said my LOD/HLODs are a mess. How could
yeah,
I get Claude to go through and fix them? So
let's see if
basically,
it
can
has that
Claude
capability.
yeah, fix that? I can even put it in the chat if you want, the Zoom chat. Oh.
There, I sent a question to Claude, so we'll find out.
And I think I saw before you brought this up that we had some more assets in the actual level too.
Yes, there's a couple of I imported some assets that we might be using later. Let's see how our level is turning out.
Yeah, look at
Okay, so
that.
it's built somewhat of a block out here. Um, it's not a huge arena, but it works for a little demo. All right. Still working on the block out. So, oh yeah, placing down I think the guards here. Yeah.
Mm. So I mean, it definitely takes some time, but it's also doing quite a lot in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
Another question we had here is, can it create and edit any U asset? So basically anything that's a U asset?
Yeah. Not any.
Hmm.
I believe the Python API can do that. I'm not sure though, but the MCP doesn't let you create any U asset. For example, it can't create scene graph prefabs, but it can create entities in your scene. So yeah, not any U asset.
Copy that.
All right, it's been placing down some item granters here. Hasn't filled them in yet.
And now, do you recommend while the AI agent is doing its thing to not work on other things, other aspects of it, or is it pretty separate? At least for things it's creating. I think if it's trying to edit something, then that could probably get
So you can
funky.
definitely do things like multiple things at the same time. you can have multiple agents doing various things. So I can tell a new session here to, hey, can you look at the, I have a little highlighting material that I built with the MCP. So I can go and tell a new session to, for example, you go and look at the highlight material in my UEFN project and give it and give the material a droplet ripple like effect on surface. Send that. So now we have the one agent working on our gun game while the other is now going to take a look at that material. And here we got an answer back on the LOD question. So Claude is saying yes, it's confirmed against the live editor. Here's what I can do for LOD cleanup. It can get the LOD count, LOD thresholds, the triangle count, the vertex count for certain LODs, and remove LODs, generate new LODs, and set LOD thresholds. So if that is the tooling you need, then the answer is yes, the MCP has that capability.
Something that we've seen actually multiple times here in chat so far, which is, can you use a local AI in MCP, or does it have to be something like Claude Code?
No, you can use local AI as well, as long as your AI supports MCP servers, which I believe 90% of them do. You can use local AI as well.
Another question we had here is the UEFN MCP extensible? Can I add my own tools? Which I think is similar to the previous one.
You cannot add your own tools to this MCP, no, unfortunately. But with that said, the Python API or Python scripts running in the editor was released some while ago. So through the Python API, you can create your own tools to work alongside the MCP here. Yeah, let's check on the progress here. Okay, so now it's working on placing gun game devices, seems like. Go back in the editor, just inspect. I think it might be working on configuring these. I'm not sure.
Another question we had here was, can you ask the AI to clean up node graphs? They always seem to just stack them on top of each other for me. Or do you have a trick?
Yeah, no, you can ask it to clean up your node graph. For example, in this material, this was originally a bunch of nodes just stacked on top of each other, and it turned it into this, which kind of looks much more organized. So it definitely can clean up node graphs for you.
And I assume as an extension to that, you could also ask it to like separate the nodes into categories and add comments and things like that as well.
Ooh, that's a good question. If it can add comments, let's try. So we'll go in here. Oh, that's already working.
And I think that's going to be a good takeaway for folks too, is like try it, right? And see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So now all 6 grantors hold their weapons. Let's check that out.
We're getting a
Check for our rocket launcher.
few chat messages saying that they've had issues with the AI agents doing comment boxes, but
Okay. So it knows how to create the comments, but they just experience issues with that, or
yeah, so
oh
we
yeah,
have comment boxes are an issue. It cannot add comments properly. At least it didn't when I tested. So it sounds like it
okay.
might be able to do it, but maybe isn't perfect
Yeah.
at it yet.
Here it's configured the creative devices. Now at least I think okay, it's done with the item granters and the guard spawners. So now it's working on the first device. Let's open VS Code so we can see what it's creating.
I like that I mean, for all intents and purposes, there is a bit of kind of black box level to this, but I do like that it's kind of broken out at least in some steps so you know where, like, kind of
Yeah,
loosely where it
absolutely.
is in that process. That's pretty
Uh,
nice.
and after all these steps, and after like prototyping and playing your game, you can ask it to go back into the level and place down real props, and turn this into a real level. And that's what we're gonna do using Fortnite props that come with UEFN. Currently, this is just a blockout type level. So let's check on this. Okay, so this agent has been building an understanding of the highlight material I referred to. And this one is doing the same. Have we gotten any verse code yet? Not yet.
Other question we had here was, does it deal with the scene graph prefabs and sequences, like creating and editing?
Can you say that again? If it works with scene graph prefabs?
Yeah, does it deal with scene graph prefabs and sequences, like
So
creating
scene
and
graph
editing?
prefabs, I think it can't create scene graph prefabs. But the sequencer, I believe it can do stuff in it. At least it can create UI animations in the animation editor there. So let's check. It has sequencer tools. Writing the verse device now. Okay. Oh, there's a new verse file. Gun game device. Okay, so it's outputted a verse device, but there are some errors here. So we're gonna see if the MCP and our AI agent will be able to fix those. Oh, there, there they went away, right in front of our eyes. That's
Doing it
amazing.
in real
And
time.
as you can see here on the compile button, the agent is trying to compile the code, seeing if there are errors and attempting to fix those errors.
Hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually kind of segues into another question we had here. Again, I know this is going to vary depending on what you're asking of it, but one of the questions
Yeah.
they had was, how often does it give you what you expected on the first try? How often do you have to go back and forth with it before you get to the point where you're happy?
It totally depends on the complexity of what you're making, but a good rule of thumb is to always, like, no matter if, even if it gives you kind of what you want first try, um, be extra critical about what the AI is giving you, and um, like always try and find areas you can improve what it gives you. But for simple stuff like this, it's really good at just giving what you want the first try. But usually for larger systems, if you want to build larger systems with AI inverse, you definitely need to iterate a lot on the AI, and you have to be very explicit about uh, how you want the system to work, and uh, kind of what the AI does wrong as you identify that. So it's very important to understand what the AI gives you. That's kind of how you can really scale with and really accelerate your development with these agents and the MCP.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, it was going to tie into another question that I had for you, which is I feel like a lot of folks are going to utilize things like the MCP with these agents to do tasks that maybe they're not familiar with or not very proficient with, just because it'd be quicker to have the AI do it than it would take for them to, quote unquote, learn how to use all these sort of systems. Do you recommend that folks use it in that sense, or is there an importance to understanding the fundamentals so that way you can go through and verify and validate the work the AI agents have done?
Yeah, I think it's always like there's always going to be a benefit in understanding some fundamentals, and having some sense of what the AI is giving you as output. Um, and I'm not saying you have to understand everything, but having some intuition of what it's giving you is generally a good idea.
And you'd be
Um,
surprised too, folks, like how much just those fundamentals, like how far those can go. Like there's a lot of specifics in all these different systems that you can get as you
yeah,
get more intermediate and expert level of understanding with these things. But in a lot of cases, just that baseline core fundamentals can reveal a lot of things for you that you could then use in instances like this where you're like, hey, this looks mostly right, but it's not functioning and I don't know why. Having those fundamentals can really help fill a lot of those gaps in a lot of cases.
yeah, 100%. So now we're on the last step where it's wiring everything together. That's another cool tool that it has. It can interact with creative devices and wire the events and functions together. It can
Mm.
also modify the properties of your verse devices. We're probably going to see that update soon.
Now, we've seen you have multiple different chats with Claude specifically here. Another question
Yeah.
we had is, can you use multiple different clients in one instance?
Ooh, I think yes, if you or that's a good question, because in the MCP settings here, you do have the ability to change the path and port number, but I wonder if this is like an editor global setting. So I think you can only have one MCP server running at the same time for one project. Yeah. Um, but multiple agents like this is no problem at all. Now our material agents here finished. So one should have added a comment to, or comments to our node graph. The other should have given our material a sort of ripple effect. Let's check it out. So,
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah, the comments seem to be kind of not correctly placed. But it definitely has a new ripple-like effect on the material. Let me try and disable the scan lines so we can see the ripple completely isolated. I'm guessing we need to set this to 0. Oh. I'm guessing that's our agent trying to save. Yeah, here you see the ripple effect it made. It's pretty cool.
I mean,
The
yeah, it
scan
looks
lines
pretty.
are still showing. Let's try and speed to 0. Oh, scan line is still showing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And this is just another really good example of, right, of like having those sort of fundamentals because we're going through those different settings and it didn't appear like the changes were affecting the way we would expect. And that might be an instance where like being able to go through that material and follow the path of what it created, you might be able to find why you weren't getting the result you were expecting.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's decided to use tags to, I believe, find some devices or find some objects in verse. So it is rewriting the verse to discover its devices by tag. Okay, interesting. So it decided to move away from editables on the device to rather use gameplay tags. And that's for this purpose quite useful. If you want to place down, for example, more enemies in a certain part of the map, you simply need to give the guard spawner the gun game guard spawner tag instead of going into your verse device and changing the editable for the guard spawners. So I'd say that's a pretty good change.
Yeah. We did have a question based off of the material node that we just saw a moment ago from the material we put there, which is how many nodes in a material is bad in UEFN? Or was that material fine to publish?
How many so nodes? I wouldn't say nodes is the I wouldn't say the amount of nodes is what you want to consider. Rather, you want to look at the materials performance with the, let's see, there should be I believe it's the stats window. It shows you how many instructions the shader has, I think. No, not the stats window. Not sure exactly where. Might be just on this substrate window. Nope. There's some window. I'm not that familiar with materials, but I know there's some stat you can look at to determine how many instructions the shader has to run. And I think that's a better number to go off when determining if the material is heavy or not. For UEFN in particular, it's hard to say. I'm not exactly sure. Um,
Yeah,
but a material this size is absolutely no problem.
yeah.
Yeah,
Instructions count is definitely the thing you want to be mindful of. That's the important stat for materials. We're seeing a couple
yeah.
people in chat saying that it is in stats. You just need to save, while some other folks are saying that it's in platform stats.
Okay, platform stats I know shows you this. Yes, it shows you. Oh, yeah, you can see instruction count here as well. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen it under stats as well. Yeah, here you can see pixel shader, instruction count, vertex shader, how many samplers, which I believe is, I think, I'm not exactly sure. Materials, it's not my specialty.
Yeah. But this does, I mean, it's giving you some pretty good information there just in those stats of like how many samplers you can have. Obviously, it's another one where you want to kind of keep that as low as possible while also being able to do what you want with the material. Same sort of thing with instruction count.
Yeah. All right. Oh, no one wants to save. Maybe it's getting there with this gun game. Let's see. Oh, we got some validation errors. Good item lists. The item granters. Okay, the item granters has some illegal property. Let's see which property. Use editor override data for property. Let's see if the agent picked up on that. No. Okay. What I'll do is just default these. And
Could this also be an instance where you copy that error and then send it to Claude and ask like, hey, what does this mean and how do I fix it?
yeah, 100%. So everything's looking good. Let's ask Claude to get us in a session. While we do that, we can go and look at our verse code, and we can try and use our AI to understand some of what's happening here. For example, let's see. Let's All right, so let's ask about why trying to find some. Okay, yeah, so it's using an expression here called first, and let's get the AI to explain how that works and why we're seeing a first expression inside an if. Like, what does that mean? So let's take this line of code and go back here. So let me go into this session and do /branch. What /branch does is it creates a new session, and I think it brings in some context of the current session that I'm in. As an AI session, not Fortnite session. Here you can see our Fortnite session loading up, which the AI started for us.
Mm. Another question that we had here from chat was, does Claude check the entire log or only the last part of it once Claude said log size was too big?
Log size was too. I'm wondering what. Oh, the output log, then I assume the.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it looks at the entire log. It might grab like the entire log, but only look at the most recent parts of it. We can try that now that we're in a session, and we should be seeing some logs from these prints here. Let's try and get in the game. Okay, it's loading. Oh, okay, yeah. So I think Claude is planning to start the game for us here. Yeah, checking state and starting the game. Okay.
A couple questions we have here while we're waiting. Is it possible with the MCP to organize the map? Maybe sculpt some landscape and add some meshes of trees/rocks that are positioned sensibly?
Yes. Land. So did you say landscape? You repeat the first part again.
Yeah, it said, is
Or
it
not
possible
wrong.
for the MCP to organize a map? I think what they mean by that is like build and lay out a map. So like sculpt some landscape, add trees, rocks,
Oh,
things like that.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if it can create landscapes, like the landscape floor itself, but it can place down trees and rocks around your level. So okay, I'm in the gun game now. Let's see if the actual gun game logic works. If I can manage to get an elimination with my touchpad.
It's pretty impressive.
Oh no.
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, there's one.
Oh, wait.
You
There's
dropped
a
a weapon.
dropped its weapon, but do I maybe need more eliminations? Or let's take a look. So when a guard gets eliminated, it calls this register elimination function. It checks how many eliminations I have. Okay. Oh yeah, I need two. Okay. So let me try and get two. You know what? Do I have my mouse closer? Yes, I do.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna plug
I'm
that in.
impressed at what you did with the trackpad up to that point, though, to be honest with you. I don't think I could do that.
All right. Now Oh,
Very
there's
nice.
our
Oh, there you
shotgun.
go.
And oh no,
Oh, he spawned right on you.
there we go. To an
Nice.
SMG here. Oh, got a purple AR. Sniper. Okay, it seems to work. That's cool.
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's clearly some things that we'd want to continue to refine, like the dropping
yes,
of weapons. Probably we wouldn't want, but
yeah,
you
we
went
don't
from
want the drop.
basically an empty project to a largely functioning gun game in 45
And
minutes ish.
yes, and what I want to do now is replace this block out because I don't want to just have white cubes in my level. I want real Fortnite props. So we're gonna say oh oops, my caps is on. Game works perfectly. Whoops, perfectly. Can we now replace the block out with some cool Fortnite props?
I got someone in chat pad track. You have someone in chat saying trackpad is crazy.
Yes, it's gotta sometimes I don't can't really use my mouse everywhere where I travel, so
Yeah.
trackpad is kind of what I have to deal with. Gotta got a mouse
It
close
it has
by.
its use case. Trying to
It
aim
does.
in a shooter might not be one of them, but
I actually like the trackpad better when working in like workspaces like Visual Studio Code because you're so close to your keyboard when you're moving the cursor around. So you can just move around, type some, move more instead of having to go back and forth to your mouse.
yeah, especially if you can get proficient with using your thumb on it. I actually used to have a coworker that would do that, where he would keep his fingers basically on the keys and just use his thumb as the trackpad, and he would barely have to move his hands at all and could do everything. I'm like, that's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so our Claude has decided it's gonna go with a military theme. That's interesting. I wonder if it'll find. I think there are some like military themed props in the Fortnite library. That might be why it wants to go with that theme. We'll see how that turns out. In the meantime, let's get our answer to this line of code, which we never got to. So, I can you explain what is going on in this line of code? Line of code. Um, uh, boom, paste. This is taken from my UEFN project. I don't understand what first means and why is all that inside one if. All right. Okay, so our agent is writing some Python scripts to run all the MCP commands a little bit quicker. Let's see if it has placed anything. Not yet. Okay, quick response from for our verse question here. All right, so what is saying? Number one, find creative objects with tag, gun game, and game tag. This finds every creative object in the island tagged with gun game and game tag. It returns a collection of creative object interface, which is the base type because the tag system doesn't know what kind of device each object actually is. Okay, yeah, so creative object interface, I believe, is yes, the base type for the creative objects or the creative devices, or it is actually an interface. Endgame device, square bracket object. This is a downcast, so it's checking, is object actually an endgame device? And square brackets, not parentheses, because the answer might be no. It's a failable expression. So if the object isn't an endgame device, that expression will fail. And then first, which I was curious about here. First is like a for loop that stops at the first element that gets through all its clauses and evaluates to the body for that element. Reading the clauses, we have the iterator, so it's looping over all the tagged objects. And then we have a filter, which does that cast we were talking about. And only objects that successfully cast to endgame device pass through this filter. And finally, the body of this first expression is just the value that we want the first to evaluate to, which is just the endgame device cast stored into this EG variable here. So it's essentially give me the first tagged object that is actually an endgame device. Okay, that's cool. And okay, then it stores that in a variable to use later. Cool. Okay, so I think our was it this one? I gotta find my session. Oh, it's still working here. Oh, it says it has placed the props. Let's look. Oh,
Oh, wow.
here we go. All right. Now it's starting to look more like a real level. I really like the walls being like built out of containers.
Yeah. Give me a little bit of shipment vibes from.
Yeah.
So we got
Okay,
some more.
let's run fix up here. Oh,
Oh,
maybe undo that.
there we go.
And let's get rid of this base plate real quick and replace this with a simple flat grass landscape. There we go. Okay, now it's looking a lot better. All right, cool. Push validation failed. It's checking the log for the reason. Those are just fix-ups. Looking for the actual error. Right. I pressed the fix-up button, so might have confused the agent a little bit here. That's a very like unusual thing that you have to get used to when working with an AI agent. There's not just you working on the project, so you might be interacting with something the agent is actively working on. So we got to be a little bit careful about that.
Do you want to do a couple more questions while
Yeah.
we're letting this thing do its thing? Great, perfect. This one's a pretty simple one, but it asks if it can migrate assets from one project to another,
Um,
or is it
I don't think
within the
so.
project itself?
Yes, I believe I'll have to double check that. I can ask session here. We migrate assets using MCP. Yeah, I'm not sure. So let's see what this session says when it's done.
Another question we had is, can it make UI animations like with keyframes? So like changing the size, render opacity, transform, etc.
Yeah, it can create those kind of UI animations in the UMG animation editor. And
Another
it
question.
generally can like build UI widgets as well. So you can use the MCP to create multiple different UMG widgets, and it'll also yeah, you can use it can create multiple different like widget components that it uses to compose a larger UI in another UMG widget. It'll set up all the view bindings for you, verse fields, everything, um, and animations. And if you're specific with your prompt, you can also have it create new materials to make your UI uh, look even cooler.
You actually already preempted the next question, which was going to be, can it generate widgets? So the answer is yes.
Yes, it can.
Another question was, how is it with building control rigs?
Ooh, can this build control rigs? Mm, let's ask. Can you build control rigs with MCP? We got an answer on the migration.
Hmm.
Um, the honest answer is partially. Through the MCP within the current project, yes, it can move things and duplicate things within the project, but cross-project migration, yeah, the MCP doesn't let you do that. That's a that's a good piece of feedback though for what we can try and get added to the MCP.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Oh, whoa. So I think it's trying to change lighting in our game now because everything went dark. Let's unlit mode.
Just going to turn into a horror game for a little bit. No worries.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally a use case, something you can use the MCP for. You can try different like art styles for the same level. So we could say like, can you try making this into a horror themed level? Or
Mm.
yeah, try apply some uh cartoon-like materials to our to my level. So you can like play with different art styles fairly quickly using the MCP. So that's cool.
Yeah. Another question we had was, can the MCP agent see the new game performance system?
Not that I know. I think I would have remembered that in particular. But it's worth checking. So I'll check. We got an answer about the control rigs. No control rig toolset exists. That's also then um,
Hmm.
a good thing we could add to the MCP.
Yeah, I
Let's
think it's
see.
worth stressing that this is right early iteration of this.
Yeah,
It'll
like
evolve and
we're already talking about new things to add to the next update to the MCP for the next update. Um, Both functionality wise, but also to make it faster, work faster. Okay, so I think we can start. While it's working on the gun game, I want to start building a little bit more complex verse system with my agent. I have prepared a sort of a plan for a crafting system, and you can see it's quite a long prompt. Um, and I just want to show that you can be extremely specific with how you uh, use your agent to build stuff in a and use things and use AI to like build more than just simple scripts to prototype games, but you can actually use it to build proper systems. Um, so I'm gonna tell, oh, game highlights is popping up here.
oh
Uh-oh,
no.
editor crashed. Let's quickly get that back.
Do you want me to pull the stream down for a second?
It's fine. We can
Okay.
stay in Claude Code here and start working on our crafting system. So I'll say to Claude that I have prepared a plan where you build a crafting system using verse. Please review the plan and implement the system in my UEFN project, and I will give it the path to my, let's see, where Fortnite projects. Here we go. All right. So I'll stop this one. Okay. And I need to get the editor back.
Another quick question here is because can the MCP agent build with assets you imported through Fab?
If it can build with assets you import, yes. So it has a dedicated like assets tool set, so it can discover uh, all the assets you have imported in your project and inspect those and use them. So it doesn't have to strictly use Fortnite props as we did for our level. You can import your own meshes and particle systems and everything for it to use.
We had a follow-up question from that, which is, does it import them as a U asset?
Oh, wait. So were they wondering if it can import assets for you, not just use them in your level?
Hmm.
I don't I don't think it imports assets for you.
Yeah, the previous
Uh,
question was, can you build with assets you imported through Fab?
well, okay,
So
yeah. So that's a yes. You can build with assets you've imported, but and then the follow-up was
he's asking if does it import them as a U asset? It
mm,
converts imported. Well, the engine converts imported assets
yeah,
to
yes,
U assets. So
yes,
as long as you've imported it into your project, it will be a U asset, and then
yeah.
engine would work with that. Here's a kind of interesting question, which is how do you use the MCP in your day to day? What guardrails do you recommend for agents?
So I've mostly used the MCP and generally just AI agents with Verse. Um, and I've I kind of whenever I use an AI agent to write verse for me, I have um a very defined vision for what I want built, and then I try to be as specific as possible with my prompts to kind of achieve that vision. Um, and sometimes the agent has like a better idea for certain things or implements things in a way I wouldn't predict in a good way. But I personally always make sure I understand what the output, uh, like how the output works. I often find myself pointing out things like, can you maybe do this a little bit different? Can you write this in using this approach instead of this? And also explain why I wanted to do things in a different way. Um, and if you do that over time, the the agent kind of gets more and more aligned with how you are thinking,
Hmm.
uh, which helps when you have long sessions going of working with an AI.
Yeah. Also seeing a lot of questions here with like how specific AI agents, Claude Code, things like that, use the data that you feed into them and things like that. You're going to have to check in with each uh, AI agent company and how they handle all that sort of stuff. I don't think we could make any blanket statement as to how that works from our perspective.
Yeah.
We had another question here: is he using Claude Fable or Opus?
Right now, I believe it's let's check. Right now, I believe I'm on Fable with medium effort. I can check in a completed session here. Yes. I think Opus is generally a bit better when it comes to programming, I believe. Um, but I think Fable has a slight advantage in doing things in a spatial environment. So it's useful for example, building a level, which we have done here.
Mm.
Okay, so the editor did never open again, so close all these. I might also have to shut down some task in the background. Let's see. Yes, here it's lurking, so get rid of that, and this should be launchable. Nice.
While that boots up, I have another question for you here.
Yeah.
And this is mostly just based off of a lot of different questions and comments and just chat I've seen in the different chats here, which is how do you suggest folks get familiar with both using MCP and also just AI agents in general? Seeing a lot of questions about what AI to use, how much they cost, what subscriptions they need to do what, etc.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like I would try out different ones just on like the free modes, the free plans, and see which one works best for you. I think I also think it doesn't. I don't think it matters that much when you're uh using one of like the paid plans. Anyways, the models are like the top models are super uh competitive, and that they constantly become better and better. So um yeah, I it's hard to give advice on that specifically. Things change so fast in the AI world. Um but yeah, experiment with different things, and you'll kind of just get a feel for what gives you the most value. Um that's sort of how I've been doing it the past years that AI has been a thing. So yeah.
Yeah, and also seeing what other people are using and what they're finding success with
Yeah.
as well is
Yeah,
helpful.
that's a good point. Talk with other people who's been using AI tools and hear about other people's experiences. That's a very good point.
Yeah, and as you said even earlier, like different models are going to be better at different things too. So also knowing like what each model is proficient in and then trying to align that with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully we get yes. Okay, we're in.
I'm actually seeing a couple people in chat giving suggestions for what they use. So love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like it can be a subjective thing as well. The AIs, like the different AIs, simply uh talk to you in different ways. So it's yeah, some people like one because it might be more concise and 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 not like say that much, but others might like the models that are more like verbose and explains things in very deep detail.
Mm.
Okay, so now it's back working in the editor. Let's see if we can see it doing anything. It should have done something with the lighting, I think. think the lighting looks a little bit different. Oh, there's some stuff over here.
Yeah, I made its own asset zoo.
I think the skills that I'm using with Claude here, I'm not sure how those skills work when it comes to like other models, but it is essentially just a bundle of markdown files with a bunch of text in them. So you should be able to use the skills that I'm going to be publishing in with any agent really. One of the skills covers verse and scene graph and a little bit about different verse API. The other is a skill just dedicated to describing the MCP and making the AI just use the MCP a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, some other chatter I'm seeing here too is like what should we be using MCP for? And I mean, I don't think we can really say because it's going to vary based off of the project, it's going to vary based off the team, it could vary based off of what you want to use it for. It's really just a tool for you to use if and how much you'd like.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a bridge between agents and the editor. So and just like humans work in the editor, you work on so many different things. And if you want to use the MCP to work on verse and iterate on verse things, then there's even different ways of doing that. As I mentioned earlier, whether you are just interested in like saying, this is what I want, and I don't really care how it's built, just give me this functionality. That's like one approach, and then you can also use your agent to build more specific systems, give it like very concrete implementation details. Maybe you have an existing system that you want to improve, and you only want to have the agent kind of go over your code and review your code, find weaknesses and find areas it can improve on. So you can use the MCP to do whatever you like within what's possible with the tool set. So it's really both for programmers and people working with, for example, materials or building levels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm glad that you kind of distinguish that too, right? Because right now a lot of what we're showing off is very like, we're asking it to build stuff kind
yeah,
of from scratch in most cases. But in a lot
yeah,
of instances, AI is a really good editor, right? It's a good way of like going like, hey, here's
yeah,
something that I've built out or whatever, proof this, point out things
yes,
that are working, things that aren't working. If I built a system and it's like way more complicated than it need to be, it might be able to point out, be like, hey, you're trying to do this to get this, end result, and you could do it this and save this much, this many lines of code or whatever. Like it can also be a good editor. It doesn't
yeah,
necessarily have to be quote unquote doing it for you.
exactly. We can take a look and see if our crafting system is starting to take shape. Okay, it's made a folder called crafting, and there's a couple of different files. Let's look at these files. So it has made a crafting component. Let's read the comment what this does. This is the passive crafting service. It answers match and performs craft. Never decides when crafting happens. That belongs to driver components composed onto the same entity. It owns no visuals. presentation components, consume the events below. Okay. So let's see. Let's look at the other files. We have some craft drivers. Auto craft driver crafts as soon as a match appears. Composes onto the same entity as a crafting component. Owns only when, never the how. Okay. So we've kind of separated what determines when a craft should happen. And that allows us to create kind of different crafting systems. For example, here it's also made a furnace, which is technically a way of crafting. You have some recipe and you burn that recipe in a furnace and it gives you some other items. So made a different crafting driver for a furnace, which has properties for example, what fuel ingredient it takes, how long it takes to melt. Yeah, that's cool. Ingredients. Okay, so it's made ingredient and interface the predicate over an item entity. So it'll essentially just check whether an entity is a valid item. Item type and item type ingredient seems to just check if the item has some type of if the item has a component of type item component. Marker ingredient, what's this? Matches items that carry a marker component of the given type. Okay. Min fuel ingredient. Ingredient that checks whether the fuel component on the item has a certain amount of burn seconds. Interesting. Let's see its progress. I don't think it's okay. It's finished with all the files. Yeah, here it's made some functions to easily create new instances of items. This seems to be an alternative to just defining a prefab in your editor and instancing that. And then matching, which I think determines whether a recipe can be crafted. So you have different ways a craft can happen. For example, an ordered matcher, that'll just take the recipes and check if you have enough of each ingredient. It doesn't rely on any particular order. And then you might, for example, have a shape matcher where you expect your crafting recipe to be crafted in with a certain shape in a grid. And that could be its own matcher, which would depend on some sort of grid system then. Then it's made different ways of doing the presentation of what's currently being crafted. So yeah, it's built a pretty complex crafting system just from that one crafting system plan we gave it. That's pretty cool. Seems to want to launch a session now, I think. Oh no, just compiled verse. Okay, so now it's kind of starting the loop of getting rid of all the errors. It's compiling the code, figuring out there's an error there, and it's gonna work on getting those removed. There you can see the errors disappearing.
Mm.
There's one left here.
And it's nice that it just auto like detects, hey, like compiling's
Yeah,
failing, there's
you don't
errors,
have to
I'm just
like,
gonna fix it. Yeah, you don't have to go like, hey, you compiled it and it didn't work. Can you go back
yeah,
and fix it? Like the fact that it's automatic is nice.
yeah. Usually, before the MCP, when I've worked with AI and Verse, I I have like copied the error messages and pasted it into the chat. Um, but yeah, now it just auto detects it, and that's
Mm.
so much better.
Saw another question in chat here. Would you be willing to go back and show how you connected uh Claude to MCP? And
Yes.
then we did that at the
So
very, very beginning of the stream, and I think that there might be people in here who
yeah,
didn't catch
I
that
can
part.
go to
So
a new location where I believe the MCP isn't. Let's see here. Connected. If this wants to load. Okay, so here we don't have any UEFN MCP connected. If I want to connect, I first have to make sure I've enabled the MCP feature. And I do that through project settings, which you find in this project dropdown. You can scroll down to this beta access panel or tab. Here you're going to find UEFN MCP toolsets, and you want that enabled. And once that's enabled, there's going to be an MCP server listening on your local host on port 8000. So I should be able to just say, hi, can you see the MCP server at local host 1000? Please connect to it. So you can literally just ask your agent to try to connect to the MCP. That's at least something you can do with Claude. I believe there are some ways you can create I think you can create a file that describes that the MCP server is there, and I think your Claude will auto connect to that. You should be able to read about that type of setup on the docs pages. So if I go to UEFN MCP, not here, maybe. I think there's a dedicated documentation page. Here it is. Yeah, you can create a client config. So if you create a file called .mcp.json and specify where your MCP server exists using this snippet. And I believe if you have that placed in your project folder, your agent should be able to automatically detect this and connect. But you can alternatively do what I'm doing here. Just say, oh, it's saying nothing is listening on. It's no response. Interesting. Oh,
is that because it's being used?
I totally forgot to specify the full path. It is under
Mm.
localhost/MCP on port 8000. And you can change this path in the editor preferences. If you have multiple applications that has an MCP server, on this exact path, you can change this to, for example, MCP-UEFN to make it a bit more unique.
Mm.
Okay, so good news, the server is now up and responding. Type MCP in the prompt. No, okay, that's not correct. Oh. Okay, it's talking about something else. Let's see. No. It is not connected still. Let's see, I think we can try the snippet approach and just do that instead. So I go into my project. Probably need to go to the root of my project. So right below my project name, create this MCP JSON file. And let's insert that snippet. Oh, not that. Whoops. Boom. Now I enter a Claude session. I wonder if it should show up. Oh, failed to parse. It's not valid JSON. Wait, is it not? Oh, it included the code block file name. Let me. Oh no, 6. And then go back in. We check again now. There it is. Unreal MCP. The first time I connected my project to the MCP or my agent to the MCP, I just asked it to connect without using a project MCP file. It's absolutely better practice to create this project MCP file. So every time you start a new Claude session in your project, you're automatically connected to the MCP. So I definitely recommend you to do that. And yeah, the guide to do that is on this documentation page in UEFN MCP under this create a client config part.
I've put the link to that in the chat, and we'll also make sure that it's included in the pinned comment on the VOD after the stream.
Nice.
For easy reference.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can just try and jump into our game again and see if things are still working after our changes. The scene looks much better now, at least than it did before with the blockouts. But it still kept kind of the same composition, which is cool. So you can still use the MCP to create blockouts and use those blockouts
Yeah.
to later replace with props.
And this is a good example too of, right, like if a your role is designer, right, and you're trying to build out all these systems and stuff like that, but you don't, have like an art or level design background. This could spin up just a quick play space for you just to test and make sure that things are working without having to spend that time yourself. And then obviously, if you have a dedicated level design team, they could come in and make their own levels or do whatever they want to there. But this is just again a quick just example of how it could help you just as like a designer.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting validation errors. Let me try. Oh, whoa. Try and fix these real quick. There's a repair errors button, so I'm pressing this and hoping the errors gets repaired. Seems like that helped. Let's try again. It's looking promising. Nice.
Hey,
The repair
we
button
go.
worked. Awesome.
Then we're gonna jump in here and play test this. And then what else did you have for this session?
I
It was
think we can just check out the kind of final state now of the gun game. And the crafting system is finished. I think there's a little bit too much code to go through everything right here and now, but I can zip up this crafting system folder and put it on the snippets page on the forums if people are interested in reading the code for this.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you folks would be interested in that.
I can see that it didn't fully use the verse skill that I built. An example is here. If it followed the verse skill, would have written this a little bit differently, but that's fine. It's still functional code. So
Yeah, and this is just another good example of, right, like it'll help get you, the brunt
yeah,
of the way there, but you'll always want to go through and check anything
yeah.
you have it
You
do.
always want to like identify places you can ask it to like rewrite. Like for example, here I would ask it to try and use um, filtered for loops in verse to avoid so many layers of indentation here. So just going over your code is a good idea after using AI.
While this is connecting, we did have a kind of fun question here, which is like, what was the most unexpected thing you've had it do when trying to generate a prompt? Because it'll get it
Hmm.
right, most of the time, but every once in a while, there's things happen.
Yeah, uh, that's a good question. I hmm. I think,
And it could be unexpected in a good way. It could be in the sense of like that it even went beyond what you were initially planning and did something really cool.
yeah. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've been positively surprised by what it's what it has made. It's hard to like put a finger on something specific, but I remember like a couple years back, 1 or 2 years back, when AI wasn't as good. There was many moments where it would produce unexpected stuff in not only good ways.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think that's been one
but
of the most interesting things to see is just like how
yeah,
efficient these uh models have gotten over the years. Like
yeah,
there's a lot of things like you're saying, just I mean, not terribly long ago where they, you would expect a very different outcome than you get now with these
yeah,
newer models.
and we gotta be prepared for a future where they are even better. So
Mhm.
building these tools like the MCP um, might prove useful, even more useful in the future.
Right.
Yeah, looks like
Look at
things
that.
are working. I ended up winning because I reached the last. Oh, you can also see it's it has placed some. Yeah, that is really cool. Um,
Here we go. Is that one
let's
of the
find that.
unexpected things?
Yeah, now something totally unexpected. It has actually placed down a little crafting demo somewhere. Let's try and find that. Can't fly. There we go. So it might just be completely invisible, like a logical test of the
Mm.
crafting system. Let's look at the outliner and see um, it's placed. Yes, here we got a blank entity with the crafting demo component. The crafting demo component. Okay. Oh, this is cool. So those make functions where it uh, instantiates, for example, different items, it's actually building a little demo scene at runtime. For example, here it's creating a workbench, giving it the unordered matcher for unordered matching of crafting recipes, and giving it an auto craft driver. And here it's uh, calling functions to give the workbench one plank, then another plank, then a gem, and then function to log the contents of the workbench. Let's see. We should be able to see in the output log how that turned out. Workbench, adding 2 planks plus 1 gem. Should give a shiny marker, or is that what becomes the trinket? Let's look at the recipes. So, oh, okay, yeah, 2 planks and 1 item with the shiny marker, and then I would guess the gem item has, yes, a shiny marker component. Okay, so takes 2 planks and something with the shiny marker. The output should be a trinket, and we can see that in the output in the log output. It added 2 planks, 1 gem, and now the workbench contains 1 trinket. So that's cool. It made it little like test demo function to make sure everything works. Um, and then I'd assume the AI would use this like demo component to debug how the system works, and if you want to extend on the system, it would extend this demo file covering the different use cases you're interested in for your system. So yeah, talking about positive surprises, this
Yeah.
is awesome to see. Um, and actually, on that note, using AI to make these sort of tests for your games is super useful. Having test code-driven tests to just cover various scenarios in your game is generally a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
almost like we planned for that. We definitely
Yeah,
didn't, but it's almost like we did. Super cool.
yeah. I mean, that's been at least some MCP together with Verse. Now there's so much more to cover about the MCP. Like we've only covered like 10% of the tool set. If
Mm.
we were to cover everything, I think we would need a live stream that lasts like a week or something. So I think my suggestion is to just try it out yourself, and play around with it, with the tools that you usually work with, and see if it can be useful. And if you, let's say you're a programmer, try and also use it for things you don't usually work with, and see if it can help you accelerate development on other parts of building games, like, I don't know, making UI or building the level. So yeah, just experiment a lot with it, find out where its strengths are, and use those strengths.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's even worth like emphasizing too, right? Like somebody who's pretty familiar with these tools and have been using them. We've gotten a lot of questions like, can it do this? And the answer is ask it, right? Ask it
Yeah,
if it can do that. Like if you don't know and you can't find the information, give it like
yeah,
ask the agent. It'll let you know if it can't or not, or can or
yeah. The
not.
MCP gives very detailed descriptions of what the tool sets can do. So yeah, just ask it, and it'll let you know.
Yeah. With that too, though, if there's anything specific that we didn't cover here, specific kinds of topics, things that you'd like to see more us expand upon more, please let us know, and maybe we'll get Magnus back again to do a part two sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Anything else we wanted to cover while we were here? I know we're running a little bit long on time, but figured while we had a moment.
Um. Yeah. No, I think we've covered everything that we wanted here. If there's any questions, we can rapid fire.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do so.
let's do it. We've gotten a ton of questions. Not all
Yeah.
of them are we going to answer here. Some of them are just like general how do I phrase it? Like questions about different agents and how they work and what their pricing structure is and how many tokens does that take versus this thing. And that's all going to depend on the agent that you use. So you'll want to consult with whatever you're looking at, whether it's Claude or whatever, and see how that all works. But as far as general questions here, we've gotten through a fair few of them, but there is a few more left. And if anybody has any last minute ones they want to do real quick, we're going to lightning round. We won't be here for too much longer, but we could probably get through a handful more. One of the questions we had is, could you send MCP/Claude verse coding standards and have it remember these standards across several projects?
Yes, you can. That's exactly what I'm doing with my verse Claude skill. So you can create, yeah, this thing called a skill, which is sort of like it, it's like a tool set for your agent that it can read from whenever it needs it. So if you have a skill that's dedicated for verse programming, and it includes like coding standards and preferences for how it should write and implement things. Um, if you have a skill like that and you tell your agent to write verse code, it's going to recognize that uh, it's been tasked to write verse code. So now I should open the verse skill and read from that skill to solve this task. So I would look into the concepts of a skill. There's also ways to just have context files in your project that your agent reads from. So you can write all your contexts, you can write all your coding standards in just one file and tell it to read that file. And I really recommend to do so with verse. There's many different ways of writing verse. So try and be explicit about how you want it to write stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. May or may not have an answer to this one, but it is something that we saw a couple different times in this session, I believe, which is lots of times when the AI compiles verse, you can get a save content pop-up. Any way that we can tell the AI to skip this because it blocks the compiling and you need to manually press save to move forward.
Right. I think I'll try this here. So you can definitely tell the AI to explicitly not save the project after doing certain things. Like my agent would save my level very often after placing down props in the level. So I just told it to stop doing that and rather save when you're finished with a larger batch of work. I don't know if it's like hard coded to also save when you compile verse in the MCP. I can check on that. If it is, that might be something we can like change. So yeah, try and just tell it to not save, and if that doesn't work, then yeah, I'll look into it. I'll double check if it forces a save when you try and compile. But yeah.
Well, Magnus, I know it's extremely late for you. Getting late for everybody else on a Friday. We won't keep you too long.
Yeah.
Let you get back to your day and all the traveling that you have to do. But sincerely appreciate you staying up to do this and taking the time to do this while traveling and have this kind of conversation and show these tools off, because I think it's really cool, and there's a lot of people very excited for this. This is pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, folks, that is going to wrap up today's bonus episode of Creating in Fortnite. A huge thank you to Magnus again, and a huge thank you to you all for coming and watching. This show would not be what it is without you, your time, and your questions. And if any of you came through the show partway through, don't worry. We post all of our live streams in VOD format on both our Twitch and YouTube channels. And please check out the EDC, check out the documentation that we're going to have linked in the pinned comment as well. But also head over to the EDC, where we have all of our documentation, our tutorials from both Epic staff and community members alike, forums, and so much more. But with that, again, huge thank you. And we'll see you guys all next week with more cool UEFN content. All right. Bye, everybody.